What up, homies? Today we're going to talk about how to actually write your ebook. So at this point, you should have your ebook formatted properly the way we talked about. So you should have a Google Slide presentation uploaded into Classroom. It should have the slides being size 8.5 by 11, and the title page should have your name and the title of the ebook. And then you should have a table of contents, which lists your chapters, and I would recommend having 3 to 4 of them. If you have more, that's okay. Just remember that you're going to have to fill those chapters. And then you should also have your sources page finished. Now your sources page back here would look something like this. Yours will be a little bit different because you're formatting it using the MLA citation if you're in periods B or D. So your source page might look a little different than this, but you should have a sources page completed. So the next step is to actually write the book. So it looks like I've already written this book, but that's just because I followed my own suggestion and I made a copy of an existing book. So my book is about child labor, but then if I go to page 1, it's copied from another book. So it says, what is animal abandonment? Obviously, I don't want to write that because I'm in a different topic. So what I want to do to start is I want to have my notes open. So I've stolen a copy of Josiah Zook's wonderful child labor notes here, and I'm going to use them to kind of guide you in the process we're going to follow next. So here's what I would do. So now that I'm at this point where I'm ready to start actually writing my book, I would go to my list of chapters and I would actually copy and paste my chapters and put them at the top of my research notes. And I'll explain why I'm going to do that in a second. So what I would do is I would copy this and then I would paste it right at the very top of these research notes. And don't worry, Josiah, I made a copy of this, so I'm not messing with your stuff. So I'm going to make it a little smaller so it's not gray. And then I'm going to actually color code. So under what is child labor, I'm just going to highlight that in a color of my choosing. We'll say green, history of child labor. I'll make that yellow. Meet Craig Kielburger. I'll make that pink. And what do I do now? We'll make that blue. Okay, so this is now going to be my code. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by thinking about green. What is child labor? And I'm going to go into my notes and I'm going to start highlighting in green anything that I think belongs in a chapter about what child labor is. So for example, I see some statistics here. I think those could probably fit nicely into a chapter about what child labor is because what it is also involves like where it happens and how often it happens. Those are all kind of questions that first chapter would answer. So I might start with something like these statistics down here. I would probably include them in my what is child labor chapter. So I'm going to highlight those in green. Now let's say one of your chapter titles was something like child labor by the numbers. Then I might hold on to this green and I might make it a different color to go with that chapter. But in this case, I think that's probably the best option. I'm going to go down. Let's see, they were chained to the loom. So this is a specific article about Iqbal Masai. And I see, let's see, history. So this article, since I didn't choose Iqbal as the person that I'm going to profile in a chapter, I may not be able to use as much of this as I want. But if you had a chapter about Iqbal, you would probably include most of the information from that article in that chapter. So then we come down here. We've got a specific chapter about a child named Mira. I think that's the one who Josiah is going to use. So for him, he would probably use in his who is Mira, who is, I don't know her full name, but who is Mira, whatever, he would find out her last name, and then he would include most of this information in that chapter. If I come down here, some families need children to survive, and many, so this looks like some basic information about child labor that would probably go in the what is child labor section. I'm going to make that green. And then I'm going to keep going down. Oh, here we go. Here's like a total definition. Child labor is when children are doing work they shouldn't be doing or when they are doing work that harms them. This is all directly related to what child labor is. So I would highlight all that in green. And so after I've done that and highlighted everything that has to do with what child labor is in green, I would go to my next chapter title, a history of child labor. And then I'd go into the notes and I'd see where do I have things about child labor throughout history. And then I would highlight those things in yellow. So you would go that way until basically all your notes are highlighted in one of these colors. If there's something in your notes that doesn't fit into any of these chapters, you just don't have to highlight it. You can just kind of leave it. And if it comes out in handy at some point, great. If not, that's okay. Not everything you take notes on will end up in your ebook. So once I've done that, let's pretend I finished that and this is all different colors. My next step is to think about all the things that I highlighted in green and how can I incorporate them into my chapter. So I want to start just like I would if I was writing an essay with some kind of an interesting hook. So for example, I might even start with this statistic. 168 million children are involved in child labor. And assuming that's what's the word I want, a current number, that would be an interesting way to start things off. So I could say something like, maybe I want to find out how many children there are in the world. So let's pretend there's 500 million children in the world. I could say something like, of the 500 million children in the world today, 168 million of them are child laborers. What does this mean? Well, it means that instead of going to school or having fun, like most children their age, they are forced, and I'm going to go back to my definition, make sure I'm doing it properly here. I think Josiah had a good definition that he used. They are forced to do work they shouldn't be doing or that harms them. Okay, so they are, and Josiah could either put quotes and directly quote his notes if it's straight from a source, or he could put it in his own words. So they are forced to work long hours in jobs that are dangerous and harmful to them. So that's how you might go about starting that first paragraph. Now, you want to fill a whole page for your chapter. That should not be too hard to do. What you can do at the bottom, like this person did, is they can include some infographics or some information that helps you to understand the concept more. So obviously, on a child labor ebook, I'm not going to put a statistic about abused animals. So make sure you're deleting whatever is in the original template you use, and you're replacing it with things that relate to what you're saying. So I might go into Google Images and see if I could find some kind of a graph that shows how many children out of the total population are child laborers. So that's basically kind of the process you're going to follow. Make sure that any time that you're citing a source, if you're citing it word for word from an article, then you have to put it in quotation marks, okay? That's so important because if you don't do that, you're basically stealing someone else's intellectual property, and that's not okay. So if you put it in your own words and you have a source list, then you don't need quotes. But if you're taking something, even 2 words that come from a source, you need to put quotes around it. If you have any questions or concerns, I'm available in office hours and Google Meet, and I'm happy to help you.